Now, there are some people actively trying to sabotage us from within ESPN.
Funny.
More specifically, I believe Norby Williamson is the guy who is attempting to sabotage our program. I'm not 100% sure. That is just seemingly the only human that has information, and then somehow that information gets leaked, and it's wrong.
You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
Well, Black and White Sports supporters, one of the biggest fears when Pat McAfee made a transition over to ESPN, he was going to be under the thumb of ESPN and Disney and everything that entails, including censorship and people telling you what you can and can't say and what your guest can and can't say. It was a big fear. I understand they offered him a lot of money, but that was one of the best parts about watching that Pat McAfee show on YouTube. And frankly, what makes his Aaron Rodgers appearances so good on that show is it evolves or devolves or whatever you want to call it into a bunch of guys sitting around bullshitting and having a conversation, and that's what makes that show so good. Well, as we suspected, ESPN and the executives at ESPN, well, they would want to quiet Pat McAfee. Now, earlier, my partner in crime, Matrix, put out a video about Andrew Marchand over at New York Post talking about ratings and the fact that are the ratings good enough for ESPN to keep this show going versus other sports shows. Here we go with the mainstream media attacks. Even though looking at you, New York Post, I would expect better from you. You are the ones that broke the Hunter Biden thing. But nonetheless, Andrew Marchand fell in line with the mainstream media. Well, Pat McAfee dropped a bombshell on his show today about the fact that there was, in fact, a member of ESPN that is currently a top executive that is currently trying to sabotage his show. And he spoke about it, and he drowned this executive on his show. And Pat McAfee, it's pretty clear Pat McAfee is at least not going out without a damn fight. I'll give him credit for that. But I also give him credit because he did not keep his mouth shut in this situation at all. Good job, Pat McAfee. If Pat McAfee is going down, he's not going down. He's going down swinging. McAfee called out ESPN executive Norby Williamson by name in an explosive segment on Friday after the Post. Andrew Marchand wrote a column opining that McAfee needs to get better ratings if his show is going to be a headache for ESPN in the wake of the Aaron Rodgers Jimmy Kimmel dust-up. On his show, and by the way, we got a statement. ESPN issued a statement about the Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Kimmel, Pat McAfee situation. So we'll get to that in a second. If the show is going to be a headache for ESPN in the wake of Aaron Rodgers, Jimmy Kimmel dust-ups. On his show on Friday, McAfee spoke to co-host AJ Hawk about how the show rates on various platforms and proceeded to go off on Williamson, ESPN's executive editor and head of event and studio production and member of company president Jimmy Patero's inner circle. Quote, "We are very appreciative and we understand that more people are watching this show than ever before. We're very thankful for the ESPN folks for being very hospitable. Now, there are some people actively trying to sabotage us from within ESPN. More specifically, I believe Norby Williamson is the guy who's attempting to sabotage our program," McAfee said. Now, I'm not 100% sure. This is just seemingly the only human that has information, and then that information gets leaked, and it's wrong, and it sets a narrative for what our show is. Oh, hell. Pat McAfee is not going out without a fight. And then we're just going to combat that with from every rat every single time, question mark, somebody tried to get ahead of our actual ratings release with wrong numbers 12 hours beforehand. That's a sabotage attempt. It's been happening this entire season from some people who didn't necessarily love the old edition of the Pat McAfee show to the ESPN family. There's a lot of those. Asked by the Post, the ESPN spokesperson did not have an immediate comment to McAfee's remarks. Williamson is one of ESPN's longest tenured employees, having joined the company in 1985. That's the rat F right there that Pat McAfee is referring to with ESPN. He is known for being a proponent of meat and potatoes sports talk and has alternatively butted heads with talents over the years who veered from that vision. Dan Le Batard's executive producer, Mike Ryan, tweeted Pat with 3 clapping emojis after the segment on Friday afternoon and had great relationship with ones who stick to it. On his show, McAfee spoke about having had a poor experience with him prior to joining ESPN. We heard them anonymously quoted in the Washington Post, the New York Post, New York Times, LA Times, Wall Street Journal. They never loved the show. It's always little things to tear us down. So even with the enemy within our own camp, I don't like that guy, McAfee said. That guy left me in his office for 45 minutes and no-showed on me in 2018. So this guy has had zero respect for me, and in return, the same goes back for him for a long time. So even with that taking place, we're still growing somehow. We're very thankful. I think we're doing it right. We're trying to do it as right as possible. We have good intentions every single time we come in. We don't always get it right, but mother effers have been getting it wrong for a long time in this specific field. Wow, he just drowned sports media as a whole. Bravo, Pat McAfee. So, this is PFT, and ESPN issued a response. It went out to front office sports. Florio grabbed it. ESPN, after staying mum for 3 days, has issued a statement regarding the comments made on Tuesday's edition of the Pat McAfee Show by Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers. It should be noted Rodgers and Mike Florio hate each other's guts. Rodgers strongly implied that ABC late-night host Jimmy Kimmel's name appears on the list of associates and or clients of Jeffrey Epstein. ESPN Senior VP of Digital and Studio Production, Mike Foss, issued the statement to frontofficesports.com. Quote, Aaron made a dumb and factually inaccurate joke about Jimmy Kimmel, Foss said. The show will continue to evolve. It wouldn't surprise me if Aaron's role evolves with it. That's a very interesting statement. McAfee apologized. Boy, it felt forced for the show's role in the brouhaha on Wednesday, while also downplaying the situation as shit talk. Will Rodgers apologize personally next Tuesday? I cannot imagine that Aaron Rodgers is actually going to jump out there and issue an apology. I don't see it. I hope he doesn't. And honestly, and Boomer and Gio were talking about this today on their show, or yesterday. Would the people they work for, would they make them issue an apology on behalf? And they talked to their boss, and their boss was kind of like, no, I don't think so. But I think a lot of people, it's such a different situation because these damn late-night hosts are put on such a pedestal in these networks. You wouldn't believe. They're some of the most powerful people, especially within these 3-letter networks that exist. Fallon, Kimmel, all these guys. It's amazing that late-night TV hosts have that much power. They've got a ton of it. Like they're all Johnny Carson. You are all no Johnny Carsons, I assure you, or even Jay Leno. You know, I mean, Jimmy Kimmel has had an issue with Aaron Rodgers for a long, long time. And then, of course, they've all come after him because of his stances. Aaron Rodgers is outside the box, and he's shoving back against the mainstream narrative when it's come to the vax and everything else, and they all hate him for it. Which is odd, because while they keep hating him, and the more they hate him, the more I grow to like Aaron Rodgers. Almost weekly, there is something else I'm adding that I'm like, you know what? Aaron Rodgers is not wrong on that, or what do you know? Me and Aaron Rodgers think alike on that issue. Keep giving them double middle fingers, Aaron Rodgers. Good luck, Pat McAfee. You may be back on YouTube only before too long. And if you are, we'll keep watching. Peace. We're out.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.